I had a very interesting week. I'm trying to get this 210 gallon over my shoulder here ready so I can transfer the larger, more aggressive South American cichlids from the 90 gallon. The Vieja, the Jack Dempsey. I'll probably take the chocolates over the Nicaragua, certainly the Salvini, and then leave the Geophagus in there, leave the red shoulder, and maybe bring over the electric blue Acara and just make the 90 a more peaceful South Central American tank. So I started setting up the tank, and I put the whole story in a short video for you because I do that because I know that I'll probably miss something if I don't. And in the video, there's the details of what happened, because I know a lot of you are chomping at the bit to know what happened. The details of what happened are in the video, and also I give you a little bit of a walkthrough of the fish room. And since I filmed that video, there have been some other changes. So I'll give you, after I play the video for you, I'll then give you an update of the update because some things have changed. So, hey, Joe's in the house, and Victor L. Victor L is in the casa, or in la casa. Let's see who else jumped on here. All right. Miguel Cintron. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Welcome, and peace and haps forever. Love seeing you here. A Tetra guy is here. Hey, Tetra guy. I've got some real nice lemon tetras and some red serpas that you're going to see today. And if you're a Tetra guy, you're going to like those. And hey, Brian, good to see you here. And you like my sign language? Glitter jig. I could probably learn sign language. I once saw a orangutan actually using sign. Or was it a gorilla? It was orangutan using sign language. You figure if he can, you learn it. Maybe I can. Glitter jig. Hey, Glitter jig. What a cool name. Alphonse and okay, Michael Machos. All right. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and officially start this. What I'll probably do is I'll edit out the whole start of this with no sound, and then once it posts to YouTube. But let's go ahead and do the official start of the live stream. If you're new to the channel and you like the content of this channel, please be sure to subscribe, hit the bell, and hit that thumbs up. What it does is it triggers the algorithm. What does that mean? It tells YouTube something good is going on and encourages YouTube to share the channel with other fish keepers, and that's how the channel grows. We're going to break through 50,000 this year. I've decided 50,000 subs. Let's go ahead and do it. Hey, Jerry. Jerry's Fish Room is in the house. It's okay to be late, my friend. And if you're wondering where GP is listening, but not on the chat because he's driving. So eyes on the road, GP. We love you. We miss you. And we'll see you next week. He had a long drive, and that's where he's at. So a couple real quick commercials that we have to do. We got to pay some bills. If you'd like to pick up some swag, visit the Teespring store. Hoodies, coffee cups, and T-shirts, and all kinds of good stuff. There is the link. If you shop on Amazon, who doesn't shop on Amazon, really? I mean, honestly, some of you maybe, but visit my Amazon store. The cool thing about if you visit the Amazon store and use the link, the cool thing about that is that if you buy anything from my store, or you don't, as long as you used my link to get to Amazon, it gives the channel a credit and doesn't increase your price. So it's a very cool kind of thing. Big shout out to my Patreon, monthly contributing Patreon members. You folks rock. And without your support, I can say, honestly, the big projects I've been working on would not have been possible. So thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. And let's go ahead and end off the commercials. If you're interested in becoming a Patreon, please just go to the description under the video for the details. And one last shout out to my wonderful moderators and also to the Cichlid Shack. All the fish you see behind me are from the Cichlid Shack. If you'd like to pick up some fish, he has a lot more than just cichlids. He has tetras, and he has everything really these days. Plants, food, all kinds of stuff, equipment. Visit him at thecichlidshack.com. Use 10% for a discount on food and supplies. 15% off on orders of 100 or more for fish, and that does not apply to shipping. So there you go. That ends off the commercials. Thank you for hanging in there. Something I've got to do, of course. And let's go ahead and jump into this short video. And hey, guys. One of the reasons I love cichlids is they're not afraid of you. They love interacting. All right, let's watch this short video, and then you can tell me in the comments, in the chat, what you think. And I really feel like I dodged a bullet. I feel like it could have been one of those disaster stories, but it's not. But it gave me a scare, and let's just go ahead and play the video and tell you the story. Here we go. So how do driftwood and rocks almost destroy a tank? That's what happened in this tank behind me, and I'll tell you the story. Let's start off with a little bit of backstory. I went to that quarry that I featured in a prior video and picked up some of these what they call medium-sized river rock, and these were for the 210 specifically to hold down that piece of driftwood because I knew it was going to need that. While there, I also picked up some with a little bit of gray in them to add to the 300-gallon. And I also stopped at the hardware store, picked up some sandpaper and also a saw because I had come to the conclusion there was no way on earth I was going to get that piece of driftwood into the tank as one piece. Do you recall this driftwood? It was featured in a prior video. Maybe some of the moderators can put the link up for that video. I think someone called it wild crafted or wild harvested. And you also have to cut it right there and separate that piece out. It's a pretty long detailed piece that wraps around, but it's connected at that one point. So I was hoping I could cut it and not damage that beautiful piece that was shooting off to the right there. So my first task was to go ahead and separate those two out. I figured that would be easier to go ahead and do that before I did anything else, like giving it some more sanding or hosing it down. So I went ahead and separated that part out, and of course I'm speeding up some of these because you don't need to watch it in real time. The wood was fairly soft, and as you can see, it came apart pretty easily. I'm glad I separated it because after I did separate those two parts, I discovered a little bit of insect remains and things of that nature between the wood that I couldn't see or get to otherwise. So now I had two pieces that I could get into the tank, but I felt that they still needed to get a little bit of cleanup, so I took some of that 60 grit and proceeded to sand the wood down, especially in any areas that looked like they had any mold or any kind of growth or bark remaining on them. Any sharp edges, I sort of dulled them down so the fish wouldn't scrape themselves against the wood. And I just continued this process on both pieces of wood on both sides, and then I went ahead and gave it a good hose down to get rid of any of the dust. And again, I did this top to bottom, bottom to top, and I turned over the pieces of wood, flipped them, and I really just hosed them down from every possible angle, getting them as clean as I possibly could. While the wood was drying, I went ahead and started moving rocks inside to the sink in the garage room, and started the process of cleaning them up. They had certainly some dust and some sand and dirt stuck to them, but they cleaned up pretty easily, and I was able to then put them right into the 210, and you can see them here. I was looking for that sort of circular pebble look. These like little boulders, right? Little dinosaur eggs. They're called medium river rock. You do have some gray and black down here that the fish eventually will really mix in. But I bought these, and I bought them a little bit larger than I'm normally comfortable with, because I don't like heavy rocks that could possibly damage the tank. Usually I don't get rocks like that, but I decided, okay, you know what? I know that piece of driftwood is going to float, so I need to put some weight on it. So what I did was I went ahead and pushed the driftwood down and weighted it down with these rocks. And then what happened is the driftwood suddenly sort of like exploded and fired up to the top. The rocks rolled off the driftwood and banged against the glass, and it was one of those moments where you just sort of hold your breath. Meanwhile, the driftwood comes up through the top. You can see here it's sticking up a little bit on this side, and the only reason this side isn't sticking out a lot is because I have it wedged. It's wedged underneath the frame wedged underneath the frame of the tank here. But the wood fires up the top. The lids and the lights go flying up in the air. The lids and the lights go flying up in the air. The rocks are banging against the front of the tank, and I'm in 911 panic mode. Thank God, right? Thank goodness. The glass held. It's very thick glass. I think it's at least ½ inch, and there don't seem to be any damage. Doesn't seem to be any scrapes or anything. But this wood obviously is not ready it's not ready to go down and stay settled. So I'm gonna let it float and let it get waterlogged over time, and it'll slowly start to come down. If you have some ideas of how perhaps to attach some of these rocks, because they're round, they're a little bit hard to attach. But if you have some ideas of how I can do that, just put it in the comments below, and maybe I'll try it. I was thinking of draining the tank way down, because working with the driftwood with the tank full, of course, is next to impossible, because it's constantly trying to fire back up to the surface. So drain the tank way down to maybe a few inches of water, like a massive water change, and then go ahead and position the rocks and maybe tie them down. I have some gardening tape that uses Velcro. I have long zip ties. Maybe I can use some of those. Any suggestions you have, let me know. And that something can hold a piece of wood. It's a really big piece of wood, so it tries to bounce back up like a freaking boat, one of those boats, those Boston whalers. You can cut it in half and it still floats, right? It refuses to go down. So at any rate, you can see what I've done with the tank. I've added a lot of this smaller, smooth river rock, and going into some of the tans, grays, and beiges. I've left in some of the black and white aragonite. The fish eventually will mix it all up, so it'll start to look a little bit more black and gray. I went with a beige, colored larger stone, and then we've got the giant piece of driftwood that I harvested locally. The other tanks are doing great. I'm doing a water change here on the 300. And I drained it using that fluval tip that I used in that tips video that I posted just recently. And of course it worked great. The tank was down to the level I needed it to be at in just a matter of like minutes, right? It was down to how far I wanted it to go. And I added, over at the quarry, I picked up more rocks. You can see here, these are new rocks right here. You can see them, turning the phone as I go here. These are all brand new from the local quarry. Actually, the front one, I think I had the front flat one. I had that one already, but the other ones are brand new. And then over here, I swapped this plant out to put one in a little bit darker green on my wife's suggestion. She said with this substrate, a darker plant would look better. Just a tip, guys, if your wife ever makes a color suggestion for your tank, follow it. They're usually better at it than we are. And this rock on the outside here, that one is a brand new rock. Looks a little bit lighter colored, and that's a brand new one too. All from the local quarry. Spent about 50 bucks in rocks. Probably would have cost me about 200 at the local fish store. This tank now is this tank only has a pleco in it, and he's hiding behind the heater. And maybe you can see him if I move the heater. There he is. Cute little guy. Anyway, he's the only inhabitant on this side of the tank. The keyhole and the rummy noses were moved over to the 29 gallon, and on this side I still have the fire mouth, but the fire mouth is going to be taken out. He's hiding behind this plant. I put this plant in, this artificial plant. I put this in, and he's now using that mostly as his hiding spot. But I'm going to pull him out and put him in this 55 and see how he gets along with these two guys. The electric blue Ochart, beautiful fish, and my little green tear. There's also a little armored catfish in there, whiptail, and a cory cat hiding in there somewhere. The plecos are doing great. The little pleco playground is doing really, really well. You can see him. I think they're mostly hiding right now, but anyway, they're doing great. Probably about 30 of them in there. And the 90 gallon continues to rock and roll. That big, beautiful vieja. Yeah. AC Heckelei, beautiful fish. Somehow manages to do okay with all these more aggressive fish. Chocolates. I was watching a Cichlid Brothers video. I was surprised how large these chocolates can get. And there's Jack Dempsey, looking beautiful as usual. Salvini, she's looking good. The nice big red belly that goes down into the anal fin. The red on her is just spectacular. And here's the Nicaragua in the corner here. Loves to hang out in the corner. A little bit of a surprise in the 8-gallon Horizon tank. They obviously laid some eggs and had a little baby. You can see them there on the left. No doubt there were more that either didn't make it or got eaten by the parents. What else is new in here? Let me show you the 29. You can see these little rummy noses. They immediately start schooling and hanging out together the way rummy noses do. Interestingly enough, when I brought over the two from the other tank, they were very dark compared to the other ones. And now that they've been in this tank for a little while, I can't tell them apart anymore. Maybe it's these two right here, still a little bit darker. And I don't know if that's genetics or if that's just because they were in a darker substrate. You can see the keyhole cichlid back there between the driftwood and the cave. These little pagoda snails continue to do really well. Little green laser cories doing great. This plant is struggling. Don't think it's going to make it. I'm definitely not a plant guy. I'll admit it. So, and here we got old Mr. Mustard, looking good. Keep thinking about taking him up to the bedroom, but right now he seems very content right there, so I'll probably leave him. So anyway, that's an update, and that's my scare of the week, to Can you imagine having a 210-gallon tank shatter and have all the water pour out, have the tank destroyed? Believe me, it was frightening, but got through it okay, and no worse for the wear, no damage to the glass as far as I can see. And any tips that you might have on how to get this wood to settle down. In the meantime, I'm just gonna let it get waterlogged. I might even just introduce fish. If I can figure out a way to close off the top, because I don't want fish jumping. So maybe temporarily use a different kind of lid as opposed to the glass lids, which are down here. I am going to introduce some fish a few at a time. I might just go to Petco and pick up a couple inexpensive Oscars and just throw them in there and just see how they do, and just fingers crossed that they don't jump out, and just to make sure that the beneficial bacteria in the aquarium is staying viable, and maybe add a little more of that, a little bit more Fritzyme 7, just to give it a little bit of a bacterial boost. When I transfer these fish out, I'll probably bring over filter media from these two filters and just dump it into the sump under the 210, just to give it a little bit of a beneficial bacteria boost. All right, so that's the update. Never a dull moment in the fish room. And the great news is 300 is doing great. All the fish look great, and you'll see them in the live stream. You'll see with the water level up and the pumps running, and you'll see that the tank is just doing great. All right, there you go. There's the update. Thank you, my friends. You are the best. So there you go. Danger averted. Disaster averted. Some of you are asking, where's my coffee? My coffee's right here. Except it is iced because the garage is running a little warm. So, an update to the update. I moved the fire mouth to the 55, and they all went through different color changes, and the electric blue Ochart has really no interest in the fire mouth. He was going after him for a minute or two. Got real dark. His face got real black, and now he's lost interest. The green tear continues to occasionally chase the fire mouth, but there's also times when I walk in and all three of them are swimming together. So they go from they go from adversarial to Los Tres Amigos in just a blink of an eye. So I'm keeping a close eye on them. If there's a problem, I will pull the fire mouth out, because the electric blue Ochart and the green tear were getting along fine. And you introduce a fish, and of course, into any kind of cichlid tank, you roll the dice. So I'm watching them very closely as I speak to you. I'm actually watching them interact. The other update, I was able to rotate the wood in the tank so that I could go ahead and put the lids back onto the 210. I'll show it to you. I'm going to have to get up, but I'll show it to you. Well, there it is. The wood is secure and floating up against the frame, the outside Euro brace, so it's holding it down. And I added the plant that was in the 300 previously, got pulled out and got added to the 210. There's actually a pleco, the pleco that you saw on the back of that heater in that short video. That pleco is now in the 210 gallon. I'm just watching him close to see, just to see how he behaves and see if he has a reaction. So, what do you think of the look on this 210? I actually, even though the wood isn't laying down on the bottom, I actually like the look of it. I like the way the way it actually is going to give the fish a lot of space to swim between. And here, I'll go ahead and let me move the camera so you can see that very unusual piece of wood that I cut off. Now on my screen, it's on the right side, but that provides a kind of a swim through area on the right side of the tank. The large rocks, they're not holding anything down. I'm just going to leave them in there as decoration. When my granddaughter gets a little older, I'll tell her they're dinosaur eggs. So, I probably won't. So at any rate, that's the way the 210 is going to look for a while, and I'll keep an eye on that pleco, and I'm probably going to add the now that I got the lids on, because one of you made a good point about Oscars being jumpers, and I definitely don't want anyone to jump out of there. But now that I got the lids on, I'll probably pick up a couple young Oscars that can hold their own, and maybe 2 or 3 bala sharks, just to kind of work as ditherfish and just to add a bit of silver and motion to it. So I'll put a couple bala sharks in there. And over time, of course, like you mentioned, Denny, over time it will start to sink. And then, it's always a work in progress, right? You're always doing something to it. And so when it starts to sink, I'll go ahead and deal with it at that point. But I think the Oscars, the bala sharks, the vieja in there, the Salvini running around, the Jack Dempsey running around there are gonna look spectacular. And of course, they'll start to stir up the sand, and so I'll make sure there's no rocks that can roll off into the glass. And also, as they stir things up, you'll start to get a little bit more of the white and black aragonite that's underneath the river rock. So a happy ending to what could have been a disaster. And what do you think about bala sharks and Oscars, just to get this tank a little bit seasoned, and then I'll start shifting over the chocolates, the Vieja, the Jack Dempsey, the Nicaragua, and of course the Salvini. So just share your thoughts on that in the chat, or if you're watching the replay underneath the video. So hold on, let me get this camera lined up correctly. Okay, I think we're good. Last week, one of you wanted a feeding on camera, and when I played a video, the I went off and I got some food, and I put it on top of the tank, so it was ready. It was ready, and then I forgot to feed the fish. So before I forget, I'm going to go ahead and dump some of their favorite treat in here. I have a product that is called a Cichlid Delight, and I have some frozen krill. They're two favorite treats, which I give them at least once a week. Well, let's take a look at them going crazy on some food. It's almost all gone. I mean, did you count to like 3? 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. You hear people talk about how much you should feed fish, and they talk about, well, whatever the fish can eat like in 3 minutes. Like, are you kidding me? I mean, if you have African cichlids, it's what they can eat in 3 seconds. I mean, it's just amazing how fast. Amazing how fast they just it's like a vacuum cleaner, right? So, all right. So let's take a look at some of your questions. And I'm going to go ahead and cruise the chat. Now, somebody had a question about a fish that wasn't eating. Let me see here. Fishman Marcus says, no bala sharks. I think you should add silver dollars. Okay. Okay. I mean, I like them both. Now, the silver dollars, I know they have these ones called like red hooks, the ones that have the red on the bottom. I really like the look of those. And maybe I'll take a trip over to the critter, the aquatic critter here in Nashville later today and see what they've got in stock. I love going there. It's like a big candy store. So I'm going to cruise back here. And if I missed anybody on the super chats, thank you so much for that. I hope I did thank all of you that did do a super chat. Sundar India thinks I should take a break. Sundar, I'll rest when I'm dead. Hard for me to take a break, Sundar. I have a very high RPM motor. Jeff Hester, how do you break glass with just a rock? Well, you saw how a big rock rolling forward. The substrate is slanted slightly up as it goes to the back. A trick I heard from, I think, MD fish keeper over in England, and it gives the tank more depth, and so it gave the rocks something to roll down. Hey, Robin, North Carolina in the house. One of my favorite spots in the world, North Carolina. All right, let's see here. So I am cruising here. If you have questions, add them to the chat now because I am working my way towards the back. Omar, you are from Puerto Rico. Un abrazo fuerte, amigo. Yo también soy puertorriqueño. All right, Miguel. Let me see. Pronounced it right. Puerto Rico, PR in the house. For those of you not familiar with Puerto Rican food, you are missing something very special. All right, let's see here. A lot of comments here. And thank you for some of those tips and ideas on how to get the driftwood to settle. I appreciate that. I've used fish line in the past to tie to decor and stuff, and I had a bad incident where a fish somehow got caught in the fish line, and it just died. It got stuck in there, and it was a beautiful. I had an electric blue fish, and he was just really pretty. And anyway, he ended up dying on me. Didn't like it, but so I'm a little bit reluctant to use fish line only because of my prior negative experience. Rocks and heavy mesh bags, that could work actually. But the truth is, I think I like it floating the way it's floating right now. I think I'm going to leave it like that and then just let it settle over time. One thing that surprised me is the wood has been in the tank now for a couple days, and there doesn't seem to be any tannins. I expected the aquarium to be kind of tea-colored, which I don't think South Americans would mind much. It would only be, aesthetically maybe not that appealing to be, kind of tea, looking like the color of tea, but I'm not getting really any tannins, so there's no There's no purging. There's no chemical filtration in that tank. Let's see here. Still cruising the chat. Yeah, aquatics and pets. Was it you that had the fish that was not eating? One product that I have found is if you could get a hold of the Cichlid Delight product. Cichlid Delight. I found that with very finicky fish, that's a product that they'll eat, and I think it's because they load it up with garlic. It has garlic in it. Now you can also get something like Focus or Garlic Guard, and soak the food in that, and then drop it in. The fish usually find garlic very hard to resist, so I would suggest trying some garlic first. Maybe take a food that normally they're excited about, like maybe some, in my case, would be like frozen krill. I don't give these guys bloodworms. I've heard it's not good for the digestive tract of the African cichlids. You can get bloat. But krill, if I was to soak krill in garlic, these fish would lose their minds. So garlic, I think, would be the first place I'd start. Start with that. You might also have a parasite situation going on. If that is the case, and several fish are acting that way, as expensive as it's going to be, you may want to treat the entire tank. Now, some people say hit it with some salt, 1 tablespoon for every 5 gallons. Keep an eye on them. Or you can use something like a Paracleanse, like a Fritz Paracleanse. That could help. So could be a variety of factors. I'd first start with giving them something real tasty and see if that fixes it before I go into medication or salt. CC Custom Leatherworks. It took my 2 pieces of wood about a week or 2 to sink. Okay, well, I'm definitely going to watch these. We'll see what they do. Sean, yeah, I'm keeping an eye on this wood and keeping an eye on that pleco. Let's see. I am looking at the chat. Yes, Michael Machos made a point about thermometers, and yes, I am going to be. I'm getting some extra plugs put in and another circuit put in, so I have more amps, and then I'm going to run this entire system off of its own plug, and just put it. So I'm having an electrician come in a couple weeks. It's going to be about $200 or $300 now, because he's going to turn one of my sockets into a 4-plug, and then he's going to add a new 4-plug on its own circuit. So this tank will then have all the wattage, all the amps that it needs, so I can put in the heaters, and I'll add a wave maker, and other stuff that's going to up the wattage usage in this tank. So after the electrician is done, I'll go ahead and get those heaters going. It's still warm enough here in the fish room that this tank has no heater in it right now, and it's at 81 degrees. I think right around 81. The 210 stays at about 80 with no heater plugged in. And I think it's, sometimes I've mentioned this in other videos, sometimes your equipment, in particular canisters, and certainly to some degree pumps, depending on how efficient they are, how much wattage they're using, they can kind of warm your water up. Whip's World, you want to do a video on the Sarah food? One of the things about Sarah is they use no fillers. They use nothing that is genetically modified, such as soy. They don't add any coloring, I believe. There's no coloring or nothing that's not natural. And they also, for whatever reason, as far as foods go, are very low in phosphates. Apparently, there are foods out there that are high in phosphate, and that can contribute to your black, brown algae, to your algae problems. So their food is very low in phosphates. It's very researched. They've been at it, I believe, about 40 years. There is a video. Maybe one of the admins can share the video of the interview with the Sarah Food folks. I think the title of it was, "Is this legit or is this the best food?" I forget. I don't think Sarah is in the title, but I think it's in the name. But if you search in my channel under the name Sarah, you'll find it. Very, very cool interview with two representatives from Sarah, and of course they make a lot more than just food now. They make filters, all kinds of stuff. Some stuff they don't import to the U.S. They're out of Germany. But yes, I agree. It's time to start thinking about heaters. Whip's World in the house. So Tristan's Fish Room, what's your thoughts on big colony of living stoni, sort of like a frontosa colony? Well, a frontosa and living stoni are very different in their temperament. Your frontosas are going to be pretty mellow, kind of slow moving, and they prefer a slightly, maybe a darker setup. They certainly thrive in a colony, a species specific tank. I'm not sure about Nimbochromis as as having a bunch of them. I guess you could. It would spread out the aggression if you had, let's say, 10 of them. 10 or 12 of them in a tank that's at least 6 feet across, because they're all going to put on good size. You are going to have them pairing up and breeding and claiming parts of the tank, digging out pits. So it could get interesting, like it can with any Nimbochromis. I mean, I'm really kind of surprised how the giraffe hap, right? The Venusus and the living stoni in here. Where is he? He's in the back corner over there. They don't really get into it with each other. Now, I'm going to be adding a frontosa to this tank, a third Nimbochromis. So we'll see. We'll see. There he is. Hey, buddy. He's a little fired up right now. When they don't have any pattern and they're all one color, it can mean trouble. So. And I did notice that the Venusus has one of his fins has been nipped a little bit. So I don't know if it's the living stoni that's doing the nipping. I'm going to keep an eye on him. All right, Sean, I will never use bloodworms. Yeah, bloodworms. I mean, they seem to do okay with some of the South American, and the community tank loves bloodworms. Certainly the firemouth, right? The green tear and the electric blue coral. But some fish, they have an intestinal tract that is very long and very thin, and I think that's very narrow, and I think that's the issue with African cichlids. And so you got to really watch what you feed them. If it's too protein rich, you can get the bloat, and I haven't seen too many fish survive from bloat. All right, so looks like Scuba Steve-O's Aquatics had some problems with the living stoni. Yeah, they can be really hard on each other, real hard on each other. I'd love to add a polystigma. Polystigmas, I think, are beautiful. And when they color up, when they lose their pattern, like they're fired up about something, they go a little bit more blue-green. They get kind of a blue-green coloration. Just a very pretty fish, and part of that Nimbochromis. Sean, spending over $100 per fish. Yeah. You got to really watch things closely when you're like the people in saltwater. We lose a rummy nose, and we're like, oh man, $10, $5, $3, depending where you got them, right? And you feel bad. Some of these saltwater guys, right? They lose a fish. It's $220 that they paid for that fish plus shipping, right? So they really got to be on their toes. That's why very often I'll look at the saltwater community to see what they're doing, and take advice from them, because man, they've got to really have it down. So now, Patrick, are you talking about power heads or wave makers? You know, for a long time, I would call them both the same thing. Uh, Brandon, I do need a jello reef. Funny you should bring that up. So, at any rate, the there's a C63-SE1. What does that mean? It's probably a secret code. You don't have to tell me, but if you if you tell me, you have to kill me. How are you doing, Ben? Doing fine. Thank you for asking. I finally get to join the live chat. I've been watching your videos for years and have gained much beneficial knowledge, and I am forever grateful, brother. Hey, I love to hear that. Thank you so much for that. It makes what I do worthwhile when I hear that somebody's actually getting something out of the videos. Thank you so much for that. Peas and Halves Forever lost his Maduka White Lips on Thursday. What a disappointment. That is a disappointment. That's a very special fish, very beautiful fish. Have you ever seen them in schools? Like 4 or 5 of them swimming together. It's actually kind of amazing. It's like just all these floating lips coming at you. Just a beautiful fish. Are you gonna replace them? I think the cichlid check has some white lips. You might want to check those out. Chris G, how come my living stone eye is white and black? Chris, I would suspect that your fish is subdominant and very intimidated by the tank mates. And so to stay off of their radar, he's making sure that nobody sees him as a threat and doesn't even know that he's male. And so that's what they do. You might want to, as an experiment, pull them out and put them in like in a 29-gallon or a 55 and let them be alone for a little while and see what happens. Especially if you have dark substrate in that extra tank, put them in there for a little while and see what happens. If he turns into this beautiful, blue face and then you put him back in the main tank and he goes all white again, you know that you have a hierarchy issue, and he's just working really hard to stay off the radar. Yeah, get another one, Peas and Haps. Special fish. I talked to, hey, R. Baglio in the house. Good to see you, buddy. I talked to James about adding a white lips to this tank, and he thought that they're a little bit, they get big. They put on good size. So if you get a big one, they could probably hold their own. But he thought that like a Starry Night and a white lips might be a little bit too docile for this combination of fish. Wow. The Malawi trout was chasing somebody. I haven't seen that. He's starting to realize how big he is. All right, so let's see here. Any more questions? Go ahead and add them to the chat. Salient Aquatics. I wouldn't mind trying one of those electric vacuums. I mean, they have these vacuums you can use, and if you're not familiar with them, I think Eheim makes one, and it's basically a big siphon tube, and then it runs the gunk through a mesh bag, and then doesn't remove water from the tank. It's basically just catching waste in the mesh bag, which in some cases pulverizes the waste and then just spreads it back to the tank, except in smaller particles. But it does catch big pieces of stuff. And when I looked into it, I just saw mixed reviews. Mine doesn't pull stuff up. It stopped working after a few weeks. Blah blah blah. So I've just been real reluctant to actually use one. But maybe there's other manufacturers now. If you know of other folks besides Eheim that make them. I'm staring at the chat here. Someone's talking about beef heart. You know, I watch people cut up beef heart to feed to discus, and all these years of being real conscious of the protein and not like giving too much or too concentrated protein, I kind of cringe a little bit. But apparently discus love beef hearts, and they get, you know, minced up and thrown in. Apparently they're good for them. I see a lot of you talking about cucumber. What do you think about cucumber for these guys? They do get greens. They do get some of the Sarah green food. I give them some of that. And they get a little bit of spirulina. But what do you think? What do you think about cucumber for haps and peacocks? I've never really fed them that. You know, I've heard somebody say put it on a fork and drop it in. And anyway, it'd be kind of interesting. Somebody is having a snail problem. My peeps purchased some live plants. You know, that's how I imported some snails too. These are just regular old, just regular old brown snails. I've got some of them in my 8-gallon, and I think they came in on some plants. It might have been eggs that came in. Now, I don't mind the pagoda snails. I think those are very pretty, but just the plain round ones, they can be a nuisance. Now, if your tank can accommodate clown loaches, pick up a little school of clown loaches. Get about 3 to 6 of them. Don't get less than 3 because they don't like being in small group, and less than that. They're much happier, very playful. You know, I've just found they live longer and they're more playful when you get 3 or more. I've had 1 and they only last like a few months, like they go into a deep depression. So pick up 3 to 6 clown loaches. And there's other types of loaches that will go ahead and just start eating all the snails. And your snail problem will be solved very quickly. I guess there's certain things you can add to the tank, but I wouldn't go a chemical route. I'd be too concerned that it might impact the fish, the beneficial bacteria. I'd be too worried about that. An electric blue Acara whip swirl. An electric blue Acara, I believe, can get up to 5 to 7 inches. I think 7 is kind of pushing it. Mine is around 5, I believe. And he's sort of a beast, maybe one of the biggest I've seen. I did see one in Arizona that was pushing 7 inches, very thick and heavy. He was in a tank that was 20 feet wide. So, but it depends. Depends on the size of the tank, the food you're using, water quality, things of that nature. But I think if you get one that gets up between 5 and 7 inches, you've got a pretty big beefy one. Jackie Moore, cucumber makes a mess in my tanks. I remember feeding frozen peas, right? You take the shells off, you drop the peas in. What a mess. Gaza Gamer 1876. I have peacocks and feed them strawberries and cucumbers. Interesting. Yeah, that Malawi trout. I mean, one of you mentioned the Malawi trout. He is a special fish. Maybe one of the main reasons I ended up with the 300-gallon was because I kept getting told by James that the Malawi trout would end up at about 15 inches and would need a lot of turnaround room, and that 7 feet was better than 6 feet. And so I said, I finally gave in and turned this into, this was possibly going to be I don't believe it. The little Taiwan reef is chasing the big Malawi gar. You know, it's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog, right? At any rate. All right, Daniel Barrett, getting some growth in the python. What is the best way to clean out a python? Daniel Barrett, I'll put the python hose in the sink with both ends sticking up, right? So that the openings are up high. And then I very gently, sometimes using, you can use something to help guide it in, but I'll pour bleach. I'll fill the whole hose with bleach. I'll let it sit overnight, And the next day, I'll just rinse it with running water, hot running water, cold running water. Rinse it really, really, really well, and it's like brand new. And all of the harmful stuff in the bleach will gas off. You'll not have to worry about it, and especially after you've given it a very thorough water rinse, and you'll see all the black algae, all the gunk in it will just go flying out of it. And what Salient says, you can use a long flexi cleaning brush. I'll show you one that I picked up on Amazon. This is one that I use to clean the hoses for the canister filters and the hoses for the pumps. It's a little stiff. You know, it's flexible, but it's stiff. Like it's got like a metal flexi on it. And for your long hoses, for the longer hoses, you can use something like this guy. Very flexible, and it's got two sides, two different size brushes depending on for the hose. But if you run this down your Python, you can see it, and it'll hose its way through. Sometimes because it's so flexy, it can get stuck and you got to really work it, but it does a really good job. I think I have these at my Amazon store. Just go to that Amazon.com/shop/Ben Ochart. All right. We're on the hour, and I don't want to use your entire weekend. Let me know your thoughts about this video in the chat or in the comments. Certainly let me know in the comments under the video after it posts to YouTube what you thought about that video that I played during this live stream. I did a survey at the community page of YouTube. I asked about videos, playing videos during live streams, and the consensus, it seems like you folks don't mind them, you like them. I think the majority liked them. Somebody made a good comment, as long as they're not too long. I kind of like that, so I think that makes sense. Let me see. Gaza Gamer 1876. My LP, my local, I guess, local fish store, pet store, have albino eye biters. $10 each, 3/4 of an inch. At that size, you're not going to really have, any hope of identifying the sex. I think. I think you're going to have to. I think you're going to have to just buy 3 of them and roll the dice, and then the one that turns into a nice, spectacular male, you can go ahead and keep that one and then give away or maybe breed them. Now, it's been my experience that albinos can be a little crazy in general. Eye biters are notoriously aggressive. The ones I've had have been a little bit on the docile side, but I've heard a lot of horror stories about them. They are a cousin of the Fregatus that I've got in here, somewhere in here. Anyway, my concern would be, come over here, buddy. I'm talking about you. Back in there with those beautiful egg spots on the anal fin. There he is. Came to my finger. This guy, he's a first cousin of an eye biter. So my concern would be aggression. So if you buy 3 of them, you can then keep the one that has the best temperament and the best color. When they get to about 4 or 5 inches, the dorsal and the anal fin will start to point out. It'll not be rounded. Now, maybe you'll get lucky if you see one of those little guys for $10 and it has a pointed anal fin, a pointed dorsal. There's a chance that it's a male. I guess you could pull them out and vent them. I'm not sure if the venting is even, if you can vent them when they're that small. I don't know. I really don't know. But Jerry says his albino eye biter is a wonderful fish. So yeah, it's a roll the dice, luck of the draw, right? So these cichlids come with their own temperament, their own attitude. Can't believe how much the trout is chasing people today. If that trout realizes how big he is, we could have some problems. Another reason why I want to put more fish in here. Fusco, Buccochromis, Notitania, and an eye biter, definitely an eye biter, and you know, just spread the aggression and keep it lively. So, all right. So let's see here. Any other comments or questions? If I missed your comment or question, I was not ignoring you. I was just didn't get to it. Hey, Chris comes up with a super chat. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. And I'm glad you're liking the streams. It looks like somebody was talking about me to John over at KG Tropical. Salient Aquatics. Thank you for that plug at the KG Tropicals. John's a good guy. I watched some of his Thursday night live stream. Started talking about getting into a ping pong match with Bob, and I thought that was interesting. So let's see here. He's in Haps. You're growing out an albino eye biter. Keep me posted. Okay, so 120 people. That's not a bad number. Thank you, everybody, for all the support. Thank you for showing up and spending some of your Saturday with me. And a big shout out to my wonderful moderators who help keep the stream going, and also a big shout out to my garage gang members, my Patreon members. Thank you so much, and thank you for all the support, everybody. And Cichlid Kings, good point. You folks want cichlids and suds Wednesday night? All in favor, type yes, and give the live stream a thumbs up. A shameless plug for thumbs up. If you want a live stream on Wednesday, cichlids and suds Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Central Time. That way I don't conflict with Jason Adams. So look for this. Look for that, and at 7 p.m. Central Time on Wednesday evening, and we'll do a laid back cichlids and suds. We'll have ourselves a nice cold one, and there'll be no video. It'll just be us chatting about fish, tanks, and updates. And I should have some fish in that 210 by Wednesday night that I can show you. Maybe we'll go ahead and do the video in front of the 210 like I used to. Okay? So, Chris G, hell yes, cichlids and suds. Jackie Moore, all right. It looks like we're getting some enthusiasm. All right, my friends, you're the best. You know that. You rock. And I will see you Wednesday night. And if not, certainly this coming Saturday. And Brandon wants cichlids and suds every night. Are you going to pay for the liver transplant, Brandon? All right, my friends. Thank you so much. And with that, we will go ahead and wrap this up.